Good afternoon for everybody. My PhD thesis is novel devices in the rehabilitation of children with cerebral palsy. My name is Mátyás Vezér and I work at the Semmelweis University Department of Orthopedics. Cerebral palsy occurs by the damage to the developing brain, which may cause movement disorder. CP is the most common motor disability in childhood, and this incidence from 2 to 3 out of 1,000 live births. And one of the most difficult tasks in pediatric orthopedic is to improve the quality of life of children with CP using different methods. Let me introduce my first project, the effect of robot-assisted gait training on gross motor function in children with cerebral palsy. Maintaining physiological walking is not a challenge for healthy individuals. However, in children with cerebral palsy, walking may need a huge effort due to the subsequent pathological gait pattern. In ambulatory children with cerebral palsy, improving gait is usually in the main focus. Regular monotone rehabilitation is a part of the patient's everyday life, and robot-assisted gait training may bring a touch of excitement in this monotonity. There is no existing evidence that robot-assisted gait training would be better than other conventional rehabilitation methods, and therefore our aim is to investigate the efficacy of this treatment. Our clinical question is, can robot-assisted gait training improve gross motor function in children with cerebral palsy? Our population is children with cerebral palsy, intervention, robot-assisted gait training, comparator, conventional therapy, and outcome gross motor function measurement D and E. Our hypothesis is that robot-assisted gait training is associated with better gross motor performance in cerebral palsy. So we have started the systematic search in 2021, 1st of October with that search key, and at the end of the selection process, only 13 eligible articles were there. So let me introduce my first forest plot. My first forest plot is about gross motor function measurement D, improvement in percentage after robot-assisted gait training. Gross motor function measurement D is a 39-point scale system which divided the patient according their standing abilities. Here we can see a 5.78% improvement in favors to robot-assisted group. It's above a minimum clinically important differences, but it's not significant. Our second forest plot is about gross motor function measurement E, improvement in percentage after robot-assisted gait training. Gross motor function measurement E is a 72-point scale system which divided the patient according their walking, jumping, and running abilities. Here we can see a 5.67% improvement in favors to intervention group. It's above a minimum clinically important differences, but it's not significant. Our third forest plot is about gait speed improvement in meter per secondum after robot-assisted gait training. Here we can see 0.1 meter per secondum improvement in favor to the intervention group. It's significant. Our fourth forest plot is about cadence decreasement after robot-assisted gait training. Here we can see a 5.45 steps number decreasement in favor to robot-assisted gait training. It's not significant. And our fifth forest plot is about step length improvement in meter after the intervention, and here we can see a 3 centimeter increase after robot-assisted gait training compared to the standard care. Our article strength is we obtain a biomedical information about gait development through robot-assisted gait training. Our limitation could be the heterogeneity of the population and the study methodology. Our implication for the practice could be, despite the significant therapist and parenteral pressure, there is currently no evidence-based effect of this therapy. And our implication could be for research, a more homogeneous patient population, and additional randomized control trials are needed to more accurately determine the effect size of robot-assisted gait training. Our conclusion is regarding our results. It could be robot-assisted gait training may have some positive impact on gait function. However, the role of this treatment in the rehabilitation of children with ambulatory cerebral palsy still remains unclear. Our goal journal is Gait and Posture, and we are waiting the feedback from major revision. Let me introduce my second topic. My second topic is the efficacy of video game-based therapy to improve upper limb function in children with cerebral palsy. It's also a systematic review and a meta-analysis. Children with cerebral palsy usually have a variety of motor impairments of the affected upper limb, such as muscle weakness, spasticity, and incoordination, which may result in dramatic function loss, for example, in reaching and grasping. Video game-based therapy thought to be as effective as usual care or conventional physiotherapy. Therefore, better rehabilitation results can be achieved through increased compliance. Comprehensive studies regarding the effectiveness of this treatment in upper extremity rehabilitation in children with CP are limited. Therefore, our aim is to investigate the efficacy of video game-based therapy. Our clinical question is, what is the effectiveness of video game-based therapy on upper limb function in children with cerebral palsy? Our population is children with cerebral palsy, intervention, video game-based therapy, comparator, conventional therapy, physical therapy, or absence of treatment, and our outcome is gross manual dexterity, grip strength, and grasp function. Our hypothesis is that in cerebral palsy, video game-based therapy is associated with better outcome of upper limb function improvement than the conventional therapy. We have started the systematic search last year, April, 1st of April, and at the end of the selection process, only 14 eligible articles were there. Let me introduce my first forest plot. My first forest plot is about grip strength improvement. Here we can see 0.36 unit increasement in favor to video game-based therapy. According to the standardized mean difference, we can say that effect was small. My second forest plot is about grasp function. Here we can see a 1.0 unit increasement in favor to the intervention group. For the intervention group, we can say that this effect was large but not significant. And our third forest plot is about hand function questionnaire. Here we can see a 0.30 unit increasement in favor to the intervention group. According to the standardized mean difference, it's a small effect, but it's not significant. And our fourth forest plot is about manual dexterity physical tests, and here we cannot see any difference between the two groups. So our strengths of our second topic, strengths, could be we obtain information about hand function development through video game-based therapy, and our limitation could be the heterogeneity of the applied therapy in the control groups and the short time of the investigations. Our implication for the practice could be, according to the advantage of video game-based therapy, it may be worth to consider to integrate it into the everyday rehabilitation and combine it with other rehabilitation techniques. Our implication for research could be a more homogeneous control groups are needed to more accurately determine the effect size of video game-based therapy. And our conclusion is video game-based therapy is proven to be least as effective in the rehabilitation of children with cerebral palsy as conventional forms of rehabilitation. Our second goal journal, and let me say thank you with this quote: a person who never made a mistake never tried anything new.
Thank you for your presentation. May I ask you, in which age can you diagnose children with cerebral palsy on average?
The diagnosis we can say that from age of 2 we can say the diagnosis of cerebral palsy.
Okay. And according to you, when what is the recommendation to start the fitness training or the training of the muscle? As soon as possible, I mean.
Yes, as soon as possible. We have, according to the origin of the disease, it's not a progressive disease, but it's usually deteriorate with the ages. So we usually have to compensate that physiological deterioration which will appear with ages.
My last question, thank you for your patience. Are these machines can used by these in this age?
There is no any age limit, but in the trials they usually applied ages from 6 and 7 years due to avoid naturally and avoid an interfere, which is usually we can see an improvement naturally until the age of 6 and 7, and that's why they usually applied at later ages.
Thank you so much.
Mátyás, are you using these, either of these technologies in your clinic? Because what I'm curious about is, even if the effects are not so incredible, how do the kids like it and their parents? Is there any disadvantage to using these?
No, thank you for your question. There is no any disadvantages according to the therapy, but unfortunately I have not met any subjective investigation according to robot-assisted gait training.
I suppose all these children like very much technology and to play with the games. Do you know what games have been used for testing the skills of these cerebral palsy infants?
Excuse me, can you repeat this question?
Yeah, do you know what kind of games have been used?
What kind of?
Games.
Games, yes, of course. In video game-based therapy, they usually used sports imitating games, for example, tennis, basketball, table tennis, but it's not an unnecessary, not a necessary thing to do these games. Just in the investigations, we met these games.
Have they measured in any study some kind of reaction time from these children, or?
Yes, the action time was a little bit heterogeneous. Usually the therapy time is from half an hour to an hour, and the investigation is contained from 18 hours intervention until 36 hours, so it's very different depending on the study, unfortunately.
Thank you. Concerning the first meta of yours, do these studies have any information of the muscle growth of the robotic technology or robotic assisted trainings?
Thank you for your question. Unfortunately, there were no any information about the muscle growth.
Only on functionality.
Functionality.
I see. Thank you.
Well, I do. Impressive. Now, first question. Is robot-assisted thing available in Hungary?
Yes, it's. Thank you for your question. Yes, it's available in a national healthcare and also in a private healthcare, but its ability is in a national healthcare not enough. We think that, and in a private healthcare, it's so expensive.
So it's reimbursed in the national healthcare system, and then it's out-of-pocket payment if you want to do it. Okay. And then a couple of questions for the first one. Not too many trials, but was the assessment team blinded to the intervention? That's the first question.
Yes.
Okay. The second one, is there minimally clinical important difference for the parameters that were assessed?
Yes.
You usually have, if you have a variable that you can intervene on,
yes.
you have minimal clinically important difference
Yes.
that makes sense for the patient. I'll tell you an example.
Yes.
So for 6-minute walk test in heart failure, it's 23 meters
Yes.
for mortality benefit. Is there something like that for the children?
Unfortunately, no. We just have some information about minimum clinically important differences according to the GMFMD and according to the gait speed. We have no any minimum clinically important differences because it's very differ according to the severity of the disease and also the cadence decreasement or the step length improvement. There is no any minimum clinically important differences which we could use.
Okay. You always show
yes.
intervention versus standard of care. What is standard of care?
Standard of care usually contain physiotherapy or usual care or usual care, yes.
And that is available to everybody?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
And we can see that we have a treadmill subgroup. It's because treadmill seems to be a little bit more close to robot-assisted gait training than we had talked before, and that's why we have to apply this subgroup to analyze this.
Okay, now, did any of the studies investigate cost-benefit, dose response, and what was asked before, and you also asked something about muscle. Did any of the studies perform muscle biopsy? I know it's invasive, or at least DEXA whole body scan that gives you then the muscle mass.
I think it would be worth to consider, but unfortunately there were no any information about this.
Okay. Now for the second one, you mentioned grip strength,
yes.
Hand grip strength. Okay. Was it specified the protocol how this was done? Because in adult medicine, in chronic disease, you always test both hands 3 times, and then you either report non-dominant hand strength or an average.
They didn't detail it as you have mentioned, but they did it with hand dynamometer. That's all about we know from the studies, unfortunately.
Age of the patients in both meta-analysis, what was the average age? More than 10 or less than 10?
The average age is around from 10 to 11, but it depends on the trial, which population they have used, but all of them were about 6 years and under the age of 18.
Okay. Now, for both meta-analysis, did any of the studies, trials, whatever, investigate satisfaction with the intervention and the potential psychological effects?
Unfortunately, there were no any satisfaction questionnaire, but hand function questionnaire could be a little subjective measurement. Usually, if the child cannot fill out the form, usually the parents fill it out. But that was only the one subjective measurement.
For your second, you have submitted it to Journal of Medical Internet Research. There is another journal that you could find relevant. I just checked a bit. Games and Health Journal. Impact of 3.5 and many randomized trials published there. So they might be interesting. In the first presentation, or second presentation, there was the information that cerebral palsy occurs, incidence is 2 to 3 per 1,000 live births. So I did a quick math for Hungary, that would mean 200 to 300 per year. And then in terms of what you have presented, that there are not so many studies and not all the aspects were addressed. I'm particularly referring to this cost benefit and satisfaction because these are teenagers. Yes. And this will reintroduce the social life to them with the video gaming and things like that. Is there a time for to do the study in Hungary?
Yes, we would like to later to do it. Unfortunately, the few numbers of the studies may be due to the only randomized control trial were considered in this meta-analysis.
If there are sample sizes of 40 and you have 200 cases per year.
Yes.
So that is 3,600 from 0 to 18. Every day in Hungary.
Yes. Thank you.
May I ask why you use standardized mean differences with grasp strength?
Because we have because the articles reported in a different unit, and that's why we have to use standardized mean differences because they use the different tests, grasp subdomain, which we can or we could pull together.
But this is.
So they normalize it actually instead of standardizing.
Yeah, I understand. But what I don't understand is this is some kind of they squeeze something, right?
Yes.
So that squeezing is some kind of a pressure, right? You can have different scales of measurement which you can convert, but you could still use the same scale, and it would then in turn not be a unit of something, and for us difficult to understand what it is. But you could use mean difference. You see, what I mean is instead of SMDs, you could convert the scales into each other.
Yes.
Could that be done, or is it the methodology that's different?
Only the articles reported just different measurements of grasp function, and we have just a number on a scale system which is different from each other, and that's why we have to pull it together.